Welcome to No Brainer MMA, the number one UFC picks podcast in the world. We're going to be going over, sponsored by Dude Wipes, because nothing like cleaning up a manly mess. We're going to be going over UFC 286, Kamaru Usman, Leon Edwards 3. So we're back again, guys, in England, in front of all you drunken English degenerates. Jordan Levitt said it, not me.
My last fight isn't me getting teabagged in front of a bunch of drunk degenerates.
We all know how the last one went. It was the upset that shocked the world. Leon Edwards took a page right out of Nate Diaz's book. I don't know if you guys remember the fight before that Usman Edwards fight. Edwards took on Nate Diaz. Edwards beat him up 4 out of the 5 rounds, and just when you thought it was over, Nate rocks a tired Edwards. And if it wasn't for a little showboating, Nate Diaz probably could have stopped the fight, but that's just not how he works. And just like that, the next fight, Usman beating up Edwards basically the whole time. I will give Leon Edwards the first round of that fight, but he was getting beat up 3 straight rounds after that, was losing the fifth one too. And then Leon landed a perfect 2x4 upside Usman's head, and the rest is history. The odds at the time of that were absolutely insane. Betting odds at the end of the fourth round was minus 10,000 on BetMGM, minus 5,000 on Bet Online. The odds makers still think that this is Usman's fight. He's sitting around a minus 245 right now, which is lower than both prior fights before that. Usman was a minus 300 in the first one. He was a minus 375 in the second one. And I think it's hard to pick Edwards in this fight, honestly. I don't want to say that was a fluke. I feel like that diminishes, the whole win. But Usman was 55 seconds away from his 16th straight win and his 7th straight title reign. And not to rag on Edwards too much because he is the champ, but go back and look at Edwards' last fights. Not very impressive. He almost lost to Nate Diaz in his last time out before the Usman fight, who Nate had 1 foot out the door already. And then he fought a 155er RDA in the fight before that, and a split decision fight over Gunnar Nelson in the fight before that. And that's already going back to 2019. He doesn't fight too often, or wasn't at the time at least. So it wasn't too impressive. I think Usman was getting too comfortable almost. We've seen it before with other champs, Amanda Nunes, or recently Valentina Shevchenko. They had similar things happen to them. They look almost like they're looking past their opponents, maybe. They didn't train enough, or they didn't take them seriously, or they didn't show the fighter respect. But basically, in all the fights, the champion looked amazing. Uh, as always, dominant. But their opponents held on long enough for them to run out of gas, and they took advantage of the situation. And we've seen this happen before, and I guarantee we see it again. That being said, I expect to see Usman the most motivated possibly that we've ever seen him, even more than the Colby fights. I'm sure most of you have seen that Joe Rogan video that's going around. It's doing its rounds saying that Usman's knees are in pretty bad shape. And people automatically think that's going to affect his cardio for this fight, but he's not just sitting around with his thumb up his ass all day. He swims, he uses the elliptical, things that, take pressure off his knees. It's not like he's just stopped cardio. So people that are saying that, oh, he's just going to run out of gas, you got to do a little bit more thinking, think a little bit harder about that. It's not like his knees hurt and he's sitting on the couch, or he's just punching a heavy bag. And that was on that JRE episode with Will Harris, who runs the Fighter of the Anatomy YouTube page, which is really a really great page. Follows around the fighters before the fights. And Will Harris has gotten pretty close to Usman from following him around, videotaping him for his documentaries. And he confirmed that in that episode that Usman knows that his career is at the tail end. He confirmed that his knees are clearly not what they used to be. He also said going into that fight, there was a possibility that Usman wasn't even going to make it to that fight because of a bad hand injury that wasn't healing correctly, and possibly a career-ending injury. But if you didn't watch that interview, would anyone even realize that he was in bad shape going into that fight? I mean, I clearly wasn't. He looked amazing. Anyway, I expect to see a highly motivated Usman that knows his career is coming to an end and knows that this is a must win. And if he loses this fight, I feel like he'll pull a Daniel Cormier. Once Cormier lost to Stipe in his last fight, Cormier said, I'm not going to fight for anything but a championship, so I guess that's it for me, which I could totally see Usman doing. Retire on top. I feel like he's one of those guys that's smart, that wouldn't fight, past his prime. Yeah, so I really like Usman in this fight. I like him in DFS too. His price is at 8,900 on DraftKings. Pretty good. I do expect this fight to go similar to the last two. The last two fights went practically the distance, so there's plenty of time for him to rack in some points. I would also throw in a Leon Edwards hedge play. His price is pretty decent too, 7,300. And if he does win, I do expect a finish, so he would be a pretty solid play. And that's it.